Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be a Minecraft movie, number 2 would be The Chosen Last Supper Part 2, episodes... I didn't check. It's probably 3 or 4, or maybe 4 or 5. I don't know. Depends. Sorry, getting sidetracked. Number 3, I thought would be A Working Man. Number 4 would be Snow White. And number 5, The Woman in the Yard. And I only got 3 out of 5 of my predictions right for this weekend. A little bit of a flip, but I mean, overall, though, it's kind of like, you know, when I made the predictions, I was like, yeah, I could see it going this way, but I went with the predictions that I just laid out, but it turned out to be wrong, but I'm not too surprised by that. One of you did get your predictions right, I checked. Good job, congratulations on that one, and as far as I could tell, no editing on that comment, so congrats for that as well. Let's move on. Let's just move right into the top 10. I came back from New York today, as I mentioned last week. I'm recording it late Sunday night. Will this be up like an hour after I record this? I don't know. Depends. It could be up Monday. We'll see. Depends how I feel. You know, I still got to work tomorrow, but so we'll see. Night owl, or will I actually try to get a good night's rest? Who fucking knows? Anyways, let's go over what happened in the overall top 10. Number 1 was a Minecraft movie, and I don't think anyone is surprised that it got number 1 this weekend, or that it's the number 1 movie in the world. You know, it's new family film, and Snow White was dividing people, so this one, you know, is going to unite everyone, obviously. Don't look at the Rotten Tomato scores. Don't look at the divide between critics and audience members. You know what I mean? Anyways, though, I don't think many people were expecting just how it was going to overperform. It started to do that over the weekend. It opened to 157 million for the 3-day domestic opening weekend. Worldwide, that adds to a total of 301 million. To put that into perspective, it has already doubled its initial production budget of 150 million, which, as we've discussed before, is our way of talking about, like, is something successful? Check and see, you know, if it's doubled its budget. It has. So, yeah. I think it's safe to say that they're in a pretty fantastic spot right now, old Warner's and Mahjong Studio, who made the film. As far as video game movies as well, this opening weekend is 11 million over the Super Mario film's 146 million 3-day opening. So it is now officially not just the highest opening for the year of 2025, but it is also the highest opening weekend for any video game adaptation domestically. As far as like overall domestic runs, it just outgrossed the entire domestic run of Tom Holland's Uncharted by 9 million. It's sitting behind Sonic 2 by 33, but currently it is the 4th highest grossing video game adaptation domestically already. If we can go back to 2025 for a second, right now domestically it is sitting behind the entire run of Captain America Brave New World by just 42 million, and as soon as it gets that, you know, it's officially the highest grossing 2025 film domestically. That's kind of nuts. You know, that the Minecraft movie, not only is it overperforming as far as like its expectations, but it's kind of breaking some records. I saw someone say that it's the 3rd best opening for an April release. In case you couldn't guess, the other 2 April releases that they're talking about are Infinity War and Endgame. So yeah, this is kind of like getting some like big time, really popular Marvel-esque kind of money, which is pretty wild. Going to the worldwide list for video game adaptations, it outgrossed the FNAF movie's entire worldwide run by 4 million. It's 1 million away from the original Sonic right now. It is currently the 13th highest grossing video game adaptation worldwide, so give it a couple weeks and then it'll become the highest grossing ever. For the year 2025, it needs 109 million until it outgrosses Captain America. So then once it does that, it'll be the 3rd highest grossing film worldwide, behind Tang Tan 1900 and Neja 2. Now, Neja 2, probably not possible. That's like, bro, that's in the billions, you know what I mean? It didn't just, it kind of barely crossed over. That movie's in the billions. So I don't think, believe it or not, Minecraft will have like the momentum to get that. But hey, it's going to outgross Captain America and probably Tang Tan 1900. So that's some victories right there for the Minecraft movie. I'm not so surprised that it's doing well, because obviously the game has been around for a while now and it's still very popular to this day. And of course, when the marketing got started, there's a lot of memeing on it. You know what I mean? You got some people online who are like film Twitter people who are like, this looks like absolute shit. But then you'll have, people posting memes about it, like clipping certain soundbite, like obviously I am Steve, and then later on in other trailers when Jack Black says chicken jockey, so much so that some of these moments have become viral sensations with little dork ass tweens in the theaters reciting the lines as they're being spoken, and then cheering really loud, and then throwing popcorn and having their phones out like it's a fucking rock concert. You're watching a fucking movie. Look, I have not seen this movie. Like I mentioned, I was in New York this weekend, so I didn't have time. But that makes me so nervous. I do want to see it at some point, because I am genuinely curious, because there is kind of a bit of a mixed reaction. Some people are saying, will God forgive us in response to seeing the film? And then some other people are like, actually, you know what? I thought it was quite good. So I'm genuinely kind of curious, especially since it's a Jared Hess film. But man, if I go in sometime this week and there's just like groups of like young dork ass little boys who are like talking loudly and then fucking just like start cheering for these stupid fucking things, I might end it all. Oh man, it's that thing of like, you look at all these records being broken, and it's incredible that this movie, despite knowing beforehand it was going to do well, and it has this popularity surrounding it, that it overperformed what people were expecting it to, and it seems like it's probably going to carry over well because of that, because people are talking about, who cares what people say critically at this point? The numbers show that this is what the people want, right? It just sucks that it comes with the caveat of, if you go see this movie, you might get the worst fucking experience of all time. And it's that thing of like potentially only encouraging, certain audience members to keep behaving badly. If you're enjoying it in your own way, it's that thing of like, I don't want to take people's joy away from them. But then I watched that video again of like him saying chicken jockey, and just these dork ass nerds stand up and fucking throw popcorn and everything, and I'm like, maybe joy was a mistake. Anyways, let's move on to number 2. Done talking about Minecraft. Fuck Minecraft. Number 2 is A Working Man, making $7.2 million, adding to a domestic total of $27 million. It needs $39 million until it gets to Statham and Ayer's Beekeeper. Worldwide, it is sitting at $44 million, so $108 million away from Beekeeper. It did cross over the initial production budget of $40 million, so it does need about $36 million now until it doubles that. I feel like I remember the Beekeeper kind of having a slower kind of rollout as well. Like obviously these movies opened to a similar number and they cost the same $40 million. The Beekeeper had a solid run here, but then worldwide it like really took off and got to a pretty good point. They're making Beekeeper 2 now because of that. They announced that they got a new director. People are excited. I'm, curious, I guess. But I don't know. Like, I feel like the Beekeeper does have like this more like trying to do like a John Wick, but it's just got these wacky kind of story beats and action moments, you know what I mean? And this one's, it's like they try to insert those kind of moments, but it's kind of wrapped around in Sylvester Stallone's alternate pitch for Rambo Last Blood. You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't know if that's going to have the same kind of appeal, but I mean, it's slowly making its way to a doubling point for its initial production budget, so I don't know, this could be another win for Statham and Ayer. I wonder if they'll collaborate further. Anyways, let's move on to number 3, which is The Chosen Last Supper Part 2. I almost got my prediction right. They just did a flip-flop, Working Man in this. Not too far off, though. This movie made $6.7 million this weekend, and we were talking about last weekend with the Chosen Last Supper Part 1. The budget for the episodes, I believe the average is like $1 million per episode, so this could be maybe $1 million budget, could be $2 million, depending on how many episodes they've lumped together. Either way, obviously, putting it in theaters and getting this amount of money back for it must be pretty good for them. The opening weekend is $5 million below the last one, though, and it's also $2 million below season 3, episode 1 and 2, but it is the third highest opening that they've had, $2 million over Christmas with The Chosen. Domestically, it still needs to outgross a couple, though, $1 million away from season 4, episodes 7 and 8, so they've got a ways to go, but, good on The Chosen people, I guess. Whatever, if they're at the Last Supper, that means the show's about to wrap up. What are they gonna do? What other fucking movies are they going to release in theaters that are, well, they're not movies, they're TV episodes. Whatever, who cares? There's plenty of these, so we talked about another Last Supper thing that came out a couple weeks ago. Next week, we'll get to that with the predictions, but more, so much Jesus content. Thanks, Angel Studios. I know you're not doing all of them, but still, it's Kingdom Story Company as well, and a couple of... Anyway, sorry. Number 4 is Snow White, making $6.08 million, adding to a domestic total of $77 million. Now, for Disney remakes, it did outgross Peach Dragon by $1 million, needs about $9 million until it gets to Cruella. So I do think it will get that. I'm not saying it's going to drop off so drastically where it can't get $9 million more dollars. I think it will get that domestically, but I don't think it will outgross anything, because I feel like after Cruella, that's when you get to the bigger Disney champs. and at that point, it might be game over for Snow White. Worldwide, as far as the Disney remakes, it's sitting at 153 million, so it's still behind Cruella here by 72 million. And then for Mark Webb, you guessed it, it's still behind The Amazing Spider-Man 2, domestically by 126 million and worldwide 556. So really no big progress other than the Peach Dragon one, but that was kind of like, because of, the circumstances we have described before, how it's not one of Disney's all-time classic original films that they remade, and it's got a different kind of tone. It's not the same as like The Jungle Book, which came out that year, you know what I mean? It kind of made sense that it didn't gross as much. So the fact that Snow White took this long to kind of get there, not really an accomplishment. You know what I mean? Obviously it's, fallen off so much that it's nowhere near its even initial production budget of either 240 million or 270. So yeah, I like I was saying before we got to the second weekend, I was hoping it could maybe have a little bit more staying power, to kind of establish itself and then be like, okay, they got a bit of a boost. Now they can kind of properly compete with Minecraft, and they kind of can't. Even now that Minecraft is out, the second weekend they didn't hold over well, and now it's like, well, Minecraft is dominating everything. Soon Snow White is just going to dip out of here completely. And I say that as if it's like a huge bummer. I wasn't a big fan of this movie. I'm not a huge fan of quite a few of Disney's strategies when it comes to making these live action films. Their reliance on them, on just mining pre-existing IP, even to the point where they're doing not even a more recent one like Lilo and Stitch, but even Moana, and even, discussions about Tangled. It's like, dude, what the fuck? These are so recent. What the hell are you doing? So it's that thing of like, I'm glad about that at least, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, people are kind of showing with their wallets. They don't want a whole lot of that. But the other side of me is like, I know that's not what the entire narrative is around this. There's been a lot of like anger and hatred fueled toward a particular star, Rachel Zegler, who I think is incredibly talented, has gotten a bit of a raw deal from a lot of people for kind of no reason, at best, like an exaggerated reason. If you ask me, though, it's kind of like, it's such a non-controversy. Why is there so many like people mad at her, you know what I mean? Like fueling their YouTube grifter content with, thumbnails of her face photoshopped to be crying, or shit like that. It's Brie Larson all over again. Jesus Christ. We don't need to talk about that too much. Let's move on to number 5, which is The Woman in the Yard, making 4.5 million, adding to a domestic total of 16 million. No worldwide totals to significantly bump it up yet. They are nearing closer to that initial production budget's doubling point. They need about 8 million more to get there. But for Wame Colette Serra, it's still behind Run All Night, one of his previous films, by 10 million. So right now, this is still his lowest grossing one, domestically at least. Let's hope for some worldwide numbers at some point. It's too bad another Blumhouse movie is coming out next week. Number 6 is Death of a Unicorn, making 2.6 million, adding to a domestic total of 10.7. And similar to Woman in the Yard, no worldwide total to show that it's bumped up anymore. They have this 15 million initial production budget that they're working with. Thing about A24 though is that I feel like, I don't know, they have their merch store. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, I know they've said like they're trying to make some more commercial films, and they've gotten some good commercial hits that probably help with some of their other projects that don't particularly do well commercially. But I feel like that is a studio that is, their whole brand is like they make weird shit, or not necessarily that, but they make movies that some other studios wouldn't make. You know what I mean? Like they love talent, they love their artists. So I don't think they're necessarily too concerned about that. So, whatever. But, as for the purposes of this show, it's fascinating to talk about finances sometimes. At least for me, I'm always curious about this stuff. But it just, it does not look like it will have the momentum to double this initial production budget. Oh, well, they made their movie. And even if it does have some technical, quibbles that I might have with it, a $15 million movie that looks as good as this, and has the cast that it does. It kind of puts a big shame to those bigger budget movies that look like shit. You know which ones they are. Anyways, let's move on to number 7, which is The Chosen Last Supper Part 1. We're going back to Part 1 again. I thought this was going to be gone, no longer showing in theaters. It's still playing. It made 1.8 million, adding to a domestic total of 17.9. So for the domestic chart, it outgrossed Christmas with The Chosen by 4 million, and it outgrossed Season 4 episodes 1 and 3 and Season 3 episode 1 and 2 by 3 million. So this one, The Chosen Last Supper Part 1, is officially the highest grossing Chosen release ever. I don't think Last Supper Part 2 will get there. Obviously, we've talked about how it's a lower opening, so I don't think it will have the momentum to get there. But, I mean, shit, they got it right with Part 1. Number 8 is Hell of a Summer, making 1.7 million, but this is on a budget of only 3 million. So if they, have a solid word of mouth domestically and maybe a small bit of worldwide numbers to bump it up, I think they'll be okay at the end of the day. I'm looking forward to seeing this one. I've heard some mixed things, but it does look like a movie that could be up my alley. So I am glad that it has some kind of attention here, even if it probably won't last forever. It's just a cool win. Kind of a neat little horror slasher comedy idea, and made it for a reasonable amount of money. And getting some headway in theaters. Hopefully it lasts for a little while into your DVD releases, streaming releases, and hopefully that can carry on for another fall. I mean, this is just ideal for like a indie kind of release. Number 9, we have The Friend, making 1.6 million. I'm not sure what the budget of this thing is, but Bill Murray is in it, so maybe it's real high. I don't know. I didn't want to see this because it's a dog movie, and I don't like dog movies. So I'm glad some people did. Closing out the video, number 10 is Captain America Brave New World, making 1.3 million, adding to a domestic total of 199. It's still 7 million away from The Dark World, and worldwide it is sitting at 410 million. So still behind Shang-Chi here by 22. So yeah, no headway for Captain America Brave New World. It's dipping out of the top 10. About 2 months, almost 2 months since its initial release in February. So, I mean, hey, it got some money. It did double its 180 million initial production budget, made 50 million over that doubling point. I don't think that's good enough for current MCU standards, especially with the, amount of reshoots they did, or rumored amount of reshoots that they did, whatever. Yeah. That's the end of that. Anyways, it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, I do think will be a Minecraft movie once again. And then number 2, I gotta predict The King of Kings, only because I checked the Fandango thing where you can see the seats before you click on the link, and it's like one showing on a Friday night is like pretty filled up. So I'm like, man, it's Angel Studios. It's an animated like family film. And it's Jesus. Oscar Isaac is Jesus. They tricked him into being in an Angel Studios movie. So I think that's probably going to be number 2. Number 3, I think, will be Drop. Number 4, The Amateur. And then number 5, Warfare. I could be totally wrong on any of these. But what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.